So again, this connection we have here between experience and wisdom, and oftentimes wisdom is just the name that we give our mistakes, or experience is just the name that we give our mistakes. And I'm sure you know a lot of people who've done a lot of things, and of course the more you do in life, the more mistakes you're going to make, the more failures you're going to have, the more successes you're hopefully going to have as well. But this is, you learn a lot from mistakes, or so I've been told. Connection here between wisdom and experience. So typically we gain wisdom, we think, when we have a whole bunch of experiences. But again, if you have a whole bunch of experiences, then that means that you've done a lot of things in your life. But again, this idea of the unaccomplished dreams, it's that unaccomplished part that's really interesting. We think about the kinds of things that we dream about. And dreams, a lot of times, are just that. They're dreams. The kinds of things that we dream about. Somebody mentioned becoming like a doctor. What other kind of dream jobs would we have, or dreams that we'd want to pursue? What are a couple of other ones?
Nurse.
What is that? A lawyer? I don't say nurse because we already have a doctor. A lawyer.
Doctor.
We already have that.
Actor.
Oh, actor. To become an actor. Okay. So maybe these are some of our dream jobs: doctor, lawyer, and actor. And if I were to ask you, why would we want to become a doctor? What's the drive behind that? What is it? Money, probably. And how about a lawyer? Money. And how about an actor? Fame. And money. So we've got money, fame, and money. So now this is a Rorschach test. This tells me, bless you, this tells me some things that are important to you guys, or at least to the people who answered it in this way. I have several friends who are lawyers. One of them, I think it's called a patent lawyer. What she does is she sits in an office and she reads contracts all day. Anyway, so what was important to her was stability. Now, if she has children someday, and she did not want them to go into law, let's say, what do you suppose she would suggest that they do? What kind of a career path do you think she would suggest that they do? Engineer? Chef? Doctor?
This is like that one, just so that she can be artist or something.
Yeah. Because if she values stability, she would try to funnel them into careers that were stable. That would be her thing. It would be, hey, listen, you could go and become an artist, a painter, but that's not stable. In fact, what you should do is maybe become a doctor and then paint in your free time. Or maybe become a politician and you can paint in your free time, if any art school will accept you. Right? A doctor, by the way. I mean, I have several friends who are doctors as well. Most of them absolutely hate it because they're not surgeons. I have one friend who's a surgeon, and they absolutely love it. They love being a surgeon. And this person is, I don't want to say too much about them. This person's a psychopath. There's no two ways about it. What this person loves about it is that they get to decide, not decide, but they make a difference in whether a person lives or dies. That's it. They like the idea that when they go in there and they go to operate, it's like, I could save a life here. Not because they care about people, but because they like the idea of being able to defeat death and overcome death and be more powerful than death in those things. And when people die, he's explained to me, and by the way, he's aware he's a psychopath. When people do die, he gets angry about it, not because they died, but because he didn't win. And that bothers him, and that's the thing that drives him to sharpen his skills constantly. The guy is constantly training. The guy is always going to conferences and training and learning new methods. It's an interesting question, by the way. Would you like to have that person as your surgeon? Or would you rather have the person who really cares deeply about you, but doesn't work as hard as that person?
Psychopath.
Yeah, a lot of times, yeah. So when we think of psychopaths, which by the way, we'll probably study psychopaths this year. We typically do. It's an interesting question about, would you rather have a doctor who's a psychopath or a lawyer who's a psychopath? Once you understand what those things are, or would you rather have the kind and compassionate person? Because you're going to find that psychopaths do serve a lot of functions in society. And so, if you're somebody who values stability, then you're probably going to try to instill that in your children. And a lot of times that comes from, not just the unlived life of the parent, but also the lived life of the parent. If your parents grew up without stability, there's a good chance that they're living very stable lives now. If they worked, maybe they've worked incredibly hard to provide the most stability that they could. And then that might be what they stress to you. Last period it came up, one of my students said that her father is trying to push her into joining the military.
Oh,
Yeah, and so I asked why that was, and she said that her father came to the country and he immigrated here, but he was too old to join the military. Which is interesting because I think they take you up until you're like 45 or something like that, or 40. So they take you until you are kind of old. So I wonder how old he was when he came here. I wonder if he was like really too old, or if he just thought of himself as too old. Like, oh, I'm already 27, it's too late for me, or I'm already 30, it's too late for me. But what's that?
Also have to get cleared for stuff, so it could also be like just like this thing that came with age.
Yeah, maybe he's got some injuries or something. I don't know. But when I was asking her why did he want to join the military, she said, I don't know. Like, that's like a very curious thing. I said, it's worth finding out, because maybe what he wants for you is. And then I asked them, the recruiters came and talked to you guys. So I was asking them what were the benefits. In fact, when they talked to you guys, let me ask you, what do you your perception of it? What was the thing that they were trying to entice you with when they were talking about benefits? Yeah. And what were some of the benefits? Healthcare.
The college fund.
Mhm.
The military discount.
Yeah, military discounts. I don't remember if it was in this class, but one of them, the person was talking about how much money they get for it. You get all this money, you deploy, you get $15,000 a month, you get this money, you get that money, you get benefits, it's all about stability. In other words, that tells you something. When that person came in and talked to you guys, did they talk at all about jumping into planes and shooting people and blowing shit up? No, they didn't talk to you about that, because there's something in that presenter's mind. That's why when we talk about like an audience, finding out who your audience is, it matters so much, because you can tell what they think about you by the way that they talk to you. They were talking to you guys about the money, about the stability, about the benefits, because they think that that's going to appeal to you. Do you suppose when they go and talk to like Coronado High School, you suppose they go to over there and say, hey, you can get like $15,000 a month, you can get all these benefits? Do you think that appeals to them? Probably not. My guess is they probably go over there and talk about things like adventure, excitement, honor, because they've already got the stability thing. In fact, if you grew up with no stability, there's a good chance that what you seek in life is stability. And if you grew up with a whole bunch of stability, you probably grew up thinking that's very boring. And your life is just mundane and boring, and so you seek the opposite. You seek excitement and adventure. And this is probably how they present, why they present those things to you guys specifically. 1 second. But then when you look at, is it that exactly?
Yeah, the military thing. Isn't the reason there's a lot of military recruiters in our school because we were like one of the poorer schools?
No, that's such a misnomer. It's such a piece of bad information. But you say it all the time, like, oh, they just go to the poor schools. No, they don't. They go, first off, even if they did, so what? If the students in a poor school need it, in other words, what options do they have? Does it make sense to send them only to the places does it make sense to send recruiters to places where people who want to be recruited? Or does it make sense to say, we're going to send them to everywhere equally? It's a big waste of resources. You would go to the place that needs it the most, or that was most responsive to it, we might say. But even if not, no, they actually do send them to all the schools. Every school, just about every school. There isn't a school that I know of, and again, that doesn't mean much. It just means it's my very limited experience. I don't know of any high schools that don't have some kind of an ROTC program. And that's like a built-in recruiter right there. My point to all of that is that the thing that is going to drive parents is going to be one of these two things he's saying here. Either the unlived life of the parents, which, this is a pretty heavy statement here, the unaccomplished dreams of them. Maybe it's something like a doctor or a lawyer or an actor. Someone last period said a boxer. If any of you guys had parents who wanted to be professional athletes, and they all have a story of like, I was about to be a professional soccer player, but then I blew out my ACL. And then, if not for that, I would have, I tell people about how I played baseball in college, and people always tell me, "Oh man, that's so, dude, I was drafted by the Yankees, but then, whatever, I stubbed my toe or something. I just couldn't do it." Yeah, they've always got like a reason for why they couldn't have done it. It's not so much now at the gym where I am now, but I used to be at another gym that you'd have these little kids in the ring. They're boxers, and so they're like 6, 7 years old. And they're learning how to box, and it's how do I say it? It can be brutal because you've got some kids who are still like punching like this, and they have like the big headgear on. And they're kind of awkward, and then you've got some kids who you can tell when they get home, their dads drill them for hours or something. They're going in, they're like 6, 7 years old, moving like actual boxers, and they're just taking the other kids apart. And the whole time, the dad will be outside the ring yelling at the kid, and barking at them like they're fighting for a championship title. And when I would talk with those dads, and I wasn't coaching those kids, but I was coaching something else. But I talked to those kids, those parents, and they would be like, "Oh yeah, I boxed amateur. I was Golden Gloves champion." Everybody, for some reason, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting someone who says they were Golden Gloves champion. So he's like, "Yeah, I was a Golden Gloves champion, and I was gonna do this, but then something happened." And then you can see that where there was an unaccomplished dream that's now trickling into the kids. And so sometimes what your parents want for you, it might just be stable because they pursued it when they were a kid. Why? Because they thought it was the best thing to do. So it makes sense if you think it's the best thing to do, that you would then pass it along to your kids and hope that they're going to pursue it too. Not because it's the best thing for them, but because they think it's the best thing for you. The other side, of course, is this thing about the unaccomplished dreams, that they really want you to accomplish the things that they didn't. Because in their minds, if they had accomplished it, it would have brought them happiness. In their minds, they want you to be happy. So it makes sense. They'd want you to accomplish those things and be happy. What Jung would probably say, because notice, by the way, he's not making a value judgment here. He's not saying you're destroying kids, you're ruining kids. He's not saying that at all. He's just saying that unlived life of the parent strongly influences the environment. It also strongly influences their children. Interestingly enough, both classes today did not touch the environment thing, just the thing about the children. So, any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? You can tell a lot about what's important to a person by looking at their environment, looking at how they create things. So if you have your own room at home, if you have your own bedroom, or if you even had just like a half of your room, if I walked in there, I could probably tell what's important to you just by looking at how you arrange things. What do you have on the walls? How do you arrange your bed? Is your bed neat or clean? Is the room a mess? If so, what's laying around? If not, what else is put away? In other words, you can tell a lot about a person just by the environment that they create. Now, stepping outside of that, if you walk around your own house, you'll be able to tell a lot about what's important to your parents just by looking at how they set up the house, what they have up there. One question I used to ask my students, I don't ask it anymore, things are a little bit different now, but I remember myself growing up, I noticed, I went to my friend's house, that my friend had more television sets in his house than he had books. And it occurred to me, I said something to his mom about a book, and his mom laughed, like, "Oh my God, reading, well, we don't do that here." And I laughed about that. I thought that was funny. And it occurred to me, I'm like, it's true, I don't see any books in their house. And then surprise, surprise, my friend's family was not one that really valued education. And I mean like valued education, not just like, I want you to graduate so that you can get a diploma so that you can get a job. I mean like valued this thing of being an educated person. And we might say today, oh, it's different now because we all have screens. Do we really use them for that though? There's only one thing we use books for. Well, some people use it to hold the door open, but you get the idea. There's only one real purpose of a book. For our phone, there's a million different uses, and very little of it has to do with education. It mostly has to do with entertainment. So what does that tell me? If you have more screens in your house than books, it tells me that you value entertainment. That's the primary drive of your life, probably. And for some people, it makes sense to them. You work all day, you come home and you're tired. I wonder how many people, when they're coming home, say, "I can't wait to get home and read a book and get educated." But then how many people are driving home going like, "I just want to get home and turn on Netflix and just chill out." But understand that when we do that, we're also sending a message. We're also presenting a model for people. Like I said before, my mom read a lot when I was growing up. My dad, not so much. My dad worked a lot. The first books, so I look over at my bookshelf and I say that because the first books I ever read are over on that bookshelf. I have them up there on the People's Almanacs. There's 3 big books over there. My mom used to read those, so I read those. It's just 3 big books about weird facts about things, short articles about every subject you could possibly imagine. And so I wonder, when you have the opportunity to set up your house, are you going to have a bookshelf? Are you going to have a bookshelf with like brand new, never read books? You're going to have a bookshelf with stuff that you've read before. When you guys have, many of you guys have children someday, how are you going to set up the house? How are you going to set up the room? Because however you set your environment up, you're sending a message to your kids about what's important. Not just what's important to you, but what's important in life. Because that's the first experience they're going to have with anything like that, about what's important in life. Once they venture outside of their house, they'll get that input from other people, but that's going to be their first example of what's important in life, the environment in which you establish them. So it's worth considering. What message are you going to send about what's important? For my friends growing up, my friends really valued entertainment. You know, one thing I say is that we always had a lot of parties, just not much to celebrate. You know? So, others? Not too spicy. I kept it nice enough.